What's up? What's going on, you guys? Man, I haven't done a live in a long time. So I am super excited to be doing one today. Okay, it's been a while since I've done that. So welcome. Oh, Peter's like, let's go. Peter, you were early. I love it. 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 I love when people like put this on their calendar and just show up because guess what? At the end of the day, that is what matters. That is really what matters a lot. So, shout out to you guys for tuning in. Again, I haven't done this in a while and I'm super excited. I had to put together, always have to put together like talking points because I know I would go off script and I have a tendency to keep doing that a lot of times too. So I'm like, you know what, Kalisha, make some notes. Okay, make some notes on that. But yeah, I am like super stoked for this. I got some really excited news to share. Oh my gosh. I got some excited news. Are you guys pumped up? Like, I'm ready. I am like so pumped up to go. I have so much to share today. But I also am very curious, like for persons who are joining in right now, like what is that one thing? Like, what are you most excited to hear about tonight? What do you want me to talk about? I want to see, let's see if we're on the same page. I truly want to see what are you guys excited for me to talk about? Drop it in the chat. Let's see, because I want to see if I'll be able to cover some stuff. It's all when persons hear about like raising money. It's always the number one question I think comes to mind is always how do I find them? How do I find people with money and all those stuff, you know? Wouldn't it be amazing if we could just have a long list of people who just always available, and whenever we need money, we can just call them and they're like, yes, you know, like a whole Shark Tank thing, but you don't have to pitch. You just always have the money. That would be fantastic, my friends. It would be amazing if every time we snap our fingers, we get 100,000, we get 500,000, we get a million, whatever that amount is. But that would be amazing. Wouldn't that be, guys? Like, tell me, what are you guys super excited to hear me talk about? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. If you're joining my live for the first time, or if you've ever been on my webinar, I love when you guys are engaging instead of you just listening to me yapping away. I can't see you, so I also go off your energy as well. So keep that in mind too, you guys. Keep that in mind because, as I said, I'm stoked. I am super stoked as well. But also, here's the thing to you guys. If you are also following me on socials, you would realize that I did a really big thing recently too. And I am super excited for that. Oh my god, like I had my doors open and there's had so many mosquitoes. I'm like, yep, here comes summer with all the mosquitoes, and they're like killing me on my feet. Oh my god. But yeah, if you guys are on my socials, you will see that I did some amazing things with me launching my first ever investment fund. So my real estate debt fund as well. So I'm gonna be talking about that tonight. But yeah, it was such it's such a big milestone for me. If you guys been following my journey, I haven't been doing this for or raising capital for 10 years. I've been raising capital, I'll say, since 2023, thereabout. Was it? Yeah, since 2023 that I've been raising money. And we're in 2026, so like literally less than 4 years. But I've been doing real estate since COVID, I think. But it just goes to show you, like, if you just commit to whatever it is that you want to do, you can literally achieve anything. Like people see everything that I've accomplished, and you would think that I've been doing this for a long time. But I think that's because in 2023, I told myself that I just want to master, I want raising capital to be my superpower. I want to improve that skill. I want to be so good at that that when people think about money, they think about me. And I just focus on that. And I think one of the hardest thing was shiny object syndrome as well. Like, I'm not perfect. I get that. I still do sometimes, but now I'm better able to control that aspect of it. But I had to just remind myself that if I just work on that thing, which is being a better capital raiser, being better at talking to investors, finding investors, the deals will flow. I've managed to grow my real estate portfolio just because I got was good at raising money and finding the money. And everyone always need money. Like we always need money. Hello. um, to grow your portfolio, whether it's real estate for your business, you need money some way, shape, or form. Right. So I kind of did that. And I think I'm so grateful that I didn't switch or I didn't give up even when it got tough, because then I wouldn't be here today. Right. So I'm seeing some stuff in the chat that you guys are excited to see how to establish credibility. You are so welcome, Denise, as well. So, Daquan mentioned how to establish credibility. I love doing these calls as well. I really do. Just showing up once in a while, just giving my time despite my schedule. Oh my God, what's going on with my voice? And Grace said, would love to learn how you learn to communicate the numbers and vision clearly. Ooh, Grace, you have access to my notes because that is on my notes. That is literally on my notes. It's a common mistake that I see people talk about. So that's definitely on my notes, and we'll be covering a lot of those things. I'll try to cover as much as I can um, tonight as well. I'll try my very, very best to go through as well. But yeah, I launched my fund. I'm super excited. Raising 10 million in the past. Have raised I've raised and deployed over $8 million since I started raising capital, and 99% of these people, 99.9% of that capital that I've raised, I've met those people through online networking events. I've met them through referrals. Um, I've met them in my network. So I didn't know all these people prior to me getting into real estate at all. But that just goes to, my Jamaican power almost come out, geez, because I was talking too fast. But that just goes to show you that, again, if you keep showing up and if you keep mastering your craft and just be very consistent, you can get it done. Like sometimes I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I've raised that much money in such a short period of time. But if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Like I'm telling you, like it's not impossible. I think, okay, I'm just ranting a little bit because it's something that I've seen where persons are like, I want to raise money, yes. And they try whatever that is. They reach out to a couple people for the first week or 2 weeks, and then they give up or they don't follow up. Or let's see, they don't follow up, they give up, they just be like, I'm gonna wait until I get a deal and all that stuff, right? But you can't do that. You have to be very consistent. And I know it's the same advice all the time, but it is true. Like I make time to do investor outreach. I make time to follow up. So that way I'm not only reaching out to investors when I need money. And most of my investors that I've raised money from, they had no prior knowledge in real estate. Like most of them didn't have any knowledge about investing in real estate or anything. So I took time to educate them. And I think the more I kept talking to investors, the more I realized what I need to fix, how I need to change my approach to talking to them, sharing the vision, because you learn something the through every conversation. That's how I've learned it. When I got into private capital too, I thought that there was a perfect way to have a pitch. So I used to have this pitch, And I used to study it so much and memorize it that when I meet people and I say the pitch, sometimes they were left so confused, or and it will be written all over their face and I had no clue what I was talking about, or they'll play it off, or they will just automatically think I'm doing fix and flip and all that stuff. And then the more I kept talking to people, I realized that there is literally no perfect pitch. Like there is none. Like I tell my students this all the time, there is no perfect pitch. You have to just assess who are you talking to and just have a conversation about it, that is going to be super crucial. And I'm just reading a little bit of the comments. Consistency, providing content even when you don't have a current project. Yes, that is what I'm even going to touch on tonight, because that is true. So you don't have to have a project um to be raising money. And you really, as Grace said, like you really have to know your audience, to know who you're talking to. I feel like Grace has access to my notes or something, because a lot of the things Grace is mentioning are things that are on my notes. That's crazy. Devin asks, like, do you find it easier to raise from equity partners than borrow from PMLs? Oh, that's a good question, Devin. And I think I'm going to touch on that a little bit once I go in. So, Devin, I'm going to pin your question, but I am going to come back. Okay. So, here's the thing, too. I think when we are trying to raise, and for a second, if you guys are also listening, like I know some of you might be taking notes as well, but I want you guys to also hear me out for a little bit too. We want to think about when investors are looking for capital, let's always assume that your potential investor, private money lender, private money partner, whatever is it that you want to call it, it doesn't matter what you want to call it. But whatever it is that you want to call it, you always want to pretend that they don't have any knowledge to real estate. Hear me out for a second, right? Because I think a lot of times when you have a real estate deal and you are pitching, you automatically assume that the person is familiar with your real estate jargons. That's the first thing. And then most times these investors, when you start using the jargons as well, they get very overwhelmed. And then they're very polite that they don't want to tell you to shut up or they don't understand. And then sometimes you wonder why they go ghost, right? So want to always assume that they do not understand what is it that you're doing. They don't understand what PML mean. They don't understand what PMP mean, right? So you want to keep that in mind. So when investors are actually looking for a deal, and again, we're going to assume everyone is an investor, guys. Let's also get that clear. Everyone is an investor. Anyone who has capital is an investor. It doesn't matter if they're in a real estate group or not. It could be a friend, a family, a coworker. As long as they have money, whether that's 20,000, whether that's 50,000, whether that's 500,000, 600,000, 10,000, and they're willing to invest or consider it, they could be considered an investor, right? And I think one of the thing would be like when it comes on to deal structure and risk positioning, right? I think persons always ask, like, Kalisha, how do I structure deals? So hear me out for a second. You have a deal, and whether that is you're investing, you have a deal for a real estate or a business, and you're talking to somebody that with the question, when you're having that conversation, right, you have to go in terms of explaining like how is how is that investor's capital protected. And you don't need to mention the documents and all that stuff, right? Because that's usually, if you listen, their biggest thing is, how is my money protected? How are you sure how I'm gonna get my money back? And I think you don't need to be talking about promissory note, all of those things. Show them, explain to them based on your exit strategy is how you are going to pay them back. So you're showing the deal. Of course, you're going to explain that we have paperwork and all that stuff, right? Explain to them if things go south, there's a way for them to get the money back. There is enough equity cushion. Is it first position? What does first position mean? If it's second position, what does that mean as well, right? You have to structure the entire conversation to answer some of those common concerns. Like put yourself in their shoe, right? I love using this example. If you have 100,000, 50,000, $5,000, and a friend or a family member comes to you and they're like, I'm just gonna call out Grace, and they're like, Grace, can you just lend me $5,000? Grace, you're gonna be like, wait, okay, what do you need $5,000 for? When am I gonna get it back? How am I gonna make sure that you're gonna give him my $5,000? You have to think about it that way too. You don't need to talk about I'm gonna purchase a property for 10,000, renovation is 4,000, ARVs that those are all numbers. Like take it slow, take it slow, take it slow. I have a deal, I have a real estate opportunity. We're actually buying it below market value. What we're gonna do, we're gonna renovate it and sell the property. When we sell the property, that is how you're gonna get your money back. And what we're gonna do is put a lien position on it. That is your security. So God forbid I die, I disappear, your capital is tied to that asset. Of course, we're gonna have different paperwork to put that in place, but you want to talk about the risk as well for their money. That's their biggest concern. Is return important? Yes, it is, but you don't want to always lead with return, because sometimes the return can be like too high and they're like, this is too good to be true, this is too risky, it's a no so you want to keep that in mind too. Number two, when you're talking to your investors, again, your investors can be anybody who has capital, right? So the numbers is another important thing, right? And when I say the numbers, like you're most times you talk about LTV and you're like ARV and debt to income and loan to value. What does that mean, you guys? You are in real estate, you're the expert, remember. So it is your job as the expert to understand and know what that means. 99% of the time, your investor does not know, excuse me, who 99% of the time your investor does not know what that mean, or your profit and all those stuff. Again, this is where you're going to walk them through the process. This is how I am going to pay your money. This is what the numbers look like. And if you can do, when you're explaining the numbers portion of it, try to do it over Zoom where you can share your screen. And if you do share a screen, oh my God forbid, do not show these people these very detailed Excel sheet that can be so overwhelming. Don't do it. If you have your detailed Excel sheet, perfect. But pull apart some of the numbers, keep it simplified for your investor if you're sharing your screen. Or just ask them to take out like their calculator. I love to do this as well. And I'll say, hey, take out your calculator and let's do some numbers together so you can see for yourself. We're purchasing the property at this amount, plus the renovation is this amount. We have our whole all our in between costs is this amount. Add up all of that. What is that? Oh, Kalisha, that is 200,000. So 200,000 is what's the cost of the project. We're hoping to sell this property for 300,000. So 200,000 from 300,000, we have a spread or profit margin of about 100,000. You would be surprised if you kind of work the math with them and you're not talking at them. It's they'll be better able to understand what is it that you're saying. Am I making sense so far, you guys? With the numbers portion of it, you don't need to talk about LTV, loan to value. It's all about making it super simple for the persons. Like, right, Peter, like you gotta slow things down, right? And you're walking them through step by step. Also, just always assume that your person does not know anything about investing, right? And then from that deal, you want to show them how you're going to pay them the return, right? So and then so if your profit margin or your spread is about 100,000, you can say, you know what, if I pay you $12,000 because I have such a good profit spread, I can pay you $12,000 as well from the deal, because as you can see, I'll be able to pay you back because I will be making enough money to be able to pay you back. I did not mention about LTV and all that stuff. I did not. Now, you will bring that up if the person that you're talking to, the person that you're talking to is now, you realize that they are an experienced investor. Then there you can say, hey, you know what? Let me send you something that you can review at your own time as well. Because also, this is very, I see this so common where an investor as well might hear about LTV and buying at 75% LTV or 65% LTV. But most times, guys, they don't even understand themselves. What does that mean? They just heard it from somebody else. Or they're like, the cash on cash return, if you're lending money on a deal, the cash on cash return should be X. But they don't understand the meaning behind it. It's because they've heard it from somebody else. Like this has happened to me in the beginning of me raising money. And I remember there was this investor, was a fix and flip project that I need private capital for, and they were talking about cash on cash return. They're like, it needs to be 10% cash on cash return. And I was like, what does that mean? Why 10% cash on cash return? Cash on cash return isn't related to this project because I'm not keeping it as a rental. What's the reason behind it? What exactly does that number come from? What are you looking for? And in me like breaking things down and going back and forth, that's where I realized that the person did not even understand what that 10% cash on cash return meant. And of course it took a little bit patience, but I had to like really break it down and be like, this is a fix and flip, this is what we look for. As it relates to a cash on cash return, it will be relevant if I'm keeping the property as a rental. And I start breaking things down, and the investor was like, oh my God, that made so much sense, you know? So want to keep that in mind. So that's the second thing, what investors like when it comes on to the numbers as well. Someone mentioned this in the chat too. So this is your part, the credibility stat, like how to build credibility. So we touch on a little bit on when you're talking to them, how to approach the deal structure and the risk portion of it, because everything is risk. Investing is a risk. So anytime you want to always find to start the conversation of how to mitigate that risk. Again, investing is a risk. So if you can like ease ways and have difference going into the conversation and know like this is how I'm going to, this is a possible risk, and these are the things that we have in place to mitigate these risks. Like I kid you not, if you start the conversation with that, it eases them a little bit, and they don't have anxiety or a little bit frustrated because now you've answered some of their top concerns that's in their head that they may not even, they might have not known how to ask that question, but you answer it and they're like, oh, okay. And then they start having follow-up questions, right? Now the credibility stack, hear me out for a second, especially for the new, if you're on here and you've never bought your first real estate deal before, or you've never raised money before, you've never used OPM before, you've never used private capital before, you do not need to have 10 years of experience at all. You do not need to have that, right? But the thing is, what you need to have is you need to show that whatever deal you're raising for or possible deal in the future, that you've thought through this entire process of how you're going to use investor capital and how you are going to pay it back, right? You need to show that you have a team in place, right? You need to show you have system, you have some sort of process in place. And I'm when I say system, I'm not talking about big CRM. Hear me out for a second. When I raised my first $50,000 from a complete stranger, and this is a perfect example, I remember pitching to this person as well about the deal I was raising for, and I pitched to them. And when I was done, they were like, you know what? I appreciate that you've thought this through, like step by step, what you're gonna use the money for, how it's protected, how you plan to pay my money out. If that option doesn't work, what's plan B? And you had the numbers to back it up. This was the first time I was raising from a stranger. Okay, I was so scared. But also when I was talking to them, I said to them, I was like, hey, I own real estate. However, I've never used private capital before. I was so transparent with them. I was like, however, I have a strong team. My team has experience in this thing that I'm going to use your money for. I think this was new construction. Yeah, it was new construction. And I just told them that, hey, like, my team has been doing new construction for X amount of time as well. This is why it's a good deal, because we have these lots and this is the value of the three lots right now. If we build on one, this is how much we're going to sell it for. Again, I use my team to build that. When it comes on to paperwork, I said usually we have these paperwork in place. Again, I've never done it before. However, I have a team that I can rely to. I have a coach that I can always go back to and ask questions for guidance. And they appreciated that so, so much. I did not fake anything. I was very transparent when they asked questions. Again, this was my first time. I did not lie. If they ask a question, I would say, you know what? I actually don't know the answer to this. However, let me go check with my team and get back to you. As simple as that. That's the credit. That's the first way with the credibility when you're asking, when you're talking to an investor over the phone. And here's another thing too, is that after a conversation, they went and they started doing research on me. Again, remember, I met this person online, but they went to do some research to see, is what Kalisha is doing, is it true? Is she also in the real estate space? Like, are she's gonna take my money for a scam? All those things. So people are going to either Google you, they're gonna do some form of research on you. And remember, I mentioned that when I started raising capital, I told myself I want to be known as, oops, sorry, I want to be known as a person, like, when you want money, you come to me. So I went on a mission, guys. Like, I remember putting in my bio as a capital raiser. Like, I updated my Instagram bio, my Facebook, um, my Facebook header, my LinkedIn. Like, I did all those things when I was in different groups as well. I positioned myself as the go-to person for capital. If persons were asking questions, I would answer them as well. And that kind of helped with the credibility when they do the research. So that's also another important um, factor as well, right? And it kind of helped them to have a little bit more confidence when they were deciding to give me money as well, right? So I think those are some of the main things. I'm not even gonna continue to go deeper into that, but I will say those are the top three things what investors want. Like, understand, adjust the, think about the deal structure and the risks for anyone who's investing. It doesn't matter if they're investing in real estate or whatnot. Like, most persons, they just want to know, how is the deal structured? What are the risks and how are you mitigating that risk? How's my money protected? Right. And your deal needs to show that, right? And if the numbers are technical, like, find a way to explain the numbers so they understand and you're not overwhelming them as well. But also build your credibility some way, shape, or form. Have something where persons can research to be like, you know what, I'm confident that this person knows what they're doing. And I want to do business with this person as well. So I think with those things, there were some mistakes that I've seen other operators make as well. Um, the pitching the deal before it's ready. Hear me out for a second. Oh my god, this is an ick of mine. It drives me nuts. I think I still see this where they would have a deal and they will come to me and they're like, Kalisha, can you help me to find capital? I was like, okay, tell me about this deal. Uh, we're gonna buy the house, we're gonna renovate it. Um, so how are you planning to pay us back? I don't know. I may sell it. I don't know. I may do co-living. I may do group home. Like, when you start doing that, it tells me, like, you haven't, you don't even, one, you don't know what you're doing. You haven't sit down and put the numbers together to see what exit strategy works. You're just throwing exit strategies out there in the air. Um, and people do that all the time. And then they wonder why an investor isn't saying yes to them or why they go ghost, because literally you're pitching a deal and it doesn't make sense. Like the numbers does not make sense at all. You don't even know what you want to do with the deal. Why should I give you my money when you didn't even take the time to analyze the deal properly and put things in place? Like think about that for a second. I know if you're on this, you might be a little bit guilty for that. Like you have to put the time, invest. If someone's giving you money, they will see through that. If you put the time to see how are you gonna pay back, and you pitch the deal, and you be like, "Oh, this is such a great deal!" Yada. Oh my God, no, guys, we gotta stop doing that. We gotta stop doing just leading with this is a great deal. Everybody has a great deal. Everybody has a great deal, but you gotta find what makes it such a great deal. It can't just be the return. Everyone has a great deal all the time. Here's another thing that investors mistakes that they make, not telling their story. Everyone has a story. Hear me out for a second. Everyone is raising money and everyone has a great deal. If there's 10 people coming to you for for money, 10 different deals, you got to find a way what sets you apart. Why are you raising money? Why do you want to get into real estate? Like, why are you doing this? Find your why and share that story. Because at the end of the day, people are also, apart from the deal, people want to see, do I want to do business with this person? Do I believe in this person's vision? Do I want to be a part of them executing this goal or that this vision do they have? Share your story. Like I was so afraid of sharing my story for a really long time until I did it on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I was like, whoa, when I did that interview, because I shared my story, so many people reached out and they're like, oh my God, I want to invest in you because I feel like I want to be a part of what you're trying to build. But the story is what makes you different. Every deal, there's so many real estate deals, but the story shows a lot about who you are as an individual, what you've gone through, the character traits that you've built. So you have to find a way to tell your story as well, because your story could show an investor like, if that person went through that and they didn't give up, that means if I give them money and the deal starts going south or something, right? They're going to try to find a way they're going to do everything that they can to pay me back. You be surprised, but it's people think about those things, you guys. Like people really think about that. And the other mistake I do, so you got to tell your story. So I hope that tonight that you think about what I said in terms of find a way to just find what is unique about you. What makes you a different investor? Why should an investor give you money? So think about that. I'm gonna pause for a second and check the chat. Devin said, at what point would you start testing the waters? Devin, do you mean like talking to investors about capital? If that is the case, I would say whatever you're raising money for, if you want to raise money, you have to have an idea what you're raising money for. That's the first thing. You can't just say, I want to raise money to buy real estate. What kind of real estate? What are you planning to do with it? If you do your research and you're like, you know what, I would love if I can own nurse assisted living facilities, and I'm going to do research. I'm going to understand how to acquire those. I'm going to understand how those make money. I'm going to vet them. I'm going to underwrite them to see what I need to do to make sure it makes money as well. So in you doing that and understanding your market, I'm going to do this in Arizona and this area of Arizona. And the reason I'm going to do it in this area of Arizona is because of XYZ. So do your research beforehand. Then when you go to an investor, now you can start telling people, you know what? This you can share the vision. I am looking to acquire assisted living facilities in Arizona, in this area of Arizona. And the reason why I don't do this because of XYZ. I am actively looking for properties or deals as well. But would this be if I get something on the contract or in the pipeline, would this be something that you would be interested in? And when you ask that, Devin, you want to make a note of it. If they're like, yeah, yeah, I will definitely be interested in this, which kind of leads to my next point. Someone's like, yeah, I'll be interested in this. You want to make a note that I talked to John. John said he would actually be interested if I do this strategy in this area of Arizona. He said he would be interested. I'm going to make a note. So that way I can now start nurturing John because John expressed interest. That could be me, like everything that we discussed, sending him an email, what we discussed in terms of what my investment strategy is, how soon I would be looking to acquire that asset, right? Also, by the time I get something on the contract, I can go back to John, right? So, and a lot of mistakes that people make is that they will do soft pitches, hard pitches, whatever it is, whether they have a deal actively raising for or not. And they meet someone who expressed interest and they don't keep track of it. Like if you don't track people who are interested in what is it that you're doing, how are you going to remember to follow up? Like how? And then it's like a cycle. You don't keep track of who you're following up with, who you're reaching out to, who you're talking to. Because you don't do that, then now you wait until you have a deal. You wait until you have a deal, and then you're trying to find new people. And those new people is the first time you're having conversation with them. You're bombarding them because you need that money for that deal right now. So it's like a whole cycle. And they say yes, they say no, they ghost you, and you're like, oh, I can't find anyone to invest. When a lot of times you have leads, but you just don't know how to convert those leads into investors because you don't take the time to nurture, you don't take the time to follow up, you don't take the time to educate. So that's why when I mentioned earlier that a lot of persons, the first question they ask is, how can I find investors? And I think the answer people are looking for when they ask, how can I find investors, is like, if I say you can find investors by going into this group, you can go into this retirement group, and you just expect if I go into that retirement group, I'm going to find an investor right away. No, you have to go in and you have to put in the work. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. And that is the hard work a lot of people do not want to do. If that is you, I'm sorry, but I have to call it out. Right? Like, you have to, if someone express interest, make a note of it. Like, I have a whole system and I don't play about that. If someone asks what do I do and they express an ounce of interest, or if they're like, this is something I would love to do in about a year, 6 months, 2 years, that's a prospect. That is a prospect, and best believe they're going into my system. And once they go into my system, I'm going to nurture them. I'm going to educate them about what is it that I'm doing all the time. I don't play about that at all. So people are not good at tracking their outreach. So because you don't track your outreach, you always think that you can't find private investors. But if you don't track where all the leads that you currently have, or where you found them from, or the last response that they had, or if you send them an email, did they open my email, did they reply? Like, there's so many things. Like, if you don't track, you don't know. And then you will always ask the question, I cannot find investors. Where do I find investors? But a lot of times you have leads, but you don't know where they are. You do one reach out on Facebook, one reach out by a text or a call, and then that's it. Like, it's called building a relationship. I don't even want to use a real estate term. It's called building a relationship. Before you marry, you're going to date someone. You're going to do some research. You're going to date them. You're going to get to know them. But you have to take the time and build that relationship. That relationship, you can build it in 5 days. You can build it in 2 weeks. You can build it in 6 months. But for me, everyone, again, as long as they express interest, they are going to be a potential prospect, right? So if you don't take your time to educate that person, because again, we don't want to educate because we automatically assume that everyone knows what it means to invest in real estate. Everyone knows what it means to provide capital, to be a lender in real estate, but we got to throw that out the window. We literally got to throw that out. Throw it out the window. Okay, let's not assume everyone knows what PML mean. And I talk about these things all the time, and people always, I think people expect me to give a different answer. Like if you go back and watch all my other lives or videos, I talk about the same thing all the time. There is no secret to raising money. It's just that once you start raising for different things, or different amount, or start raising from a different caliber of people, your strategy is going to tweak a little bit, but the same principles apply. You got to do outreach. You got to do follow up. You got to find a way to see what makes you different. You got to find a way. How do I explain this deal? Because now you're talking to different people as well. So again, it's the you're just changing your strategies as well. I'm gonna pause. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat before I get to my other points, because I know I can. Again, I said it. I can keep talking. Um, do you primarily always raise money first before you have a deal, so it's faster and smoother to close versus having the deal? Okay, so I'm gonna read this question. The question is, do you primarily always raise the money first before you have a deal, so it's faster and smoother to close versus having the deal but trying to raise money and make a deadline but not make it? I'm going to tell you something. Some folks say easier to raise the money first so you will have it. Here's my thing. um, I would say, because I do this all the time, let's put this here. I am always raising money, whether I have a deal or not. You know why? Because if I'm raising money, let me step back a little bit. When I say I'm always raising money, with my schedule, like I have time schedule where I'm raising money. I'm doing outreach. I'm following up. When I pitch to someone, do not have, even if I do not have a deal that I'm raising for, I have past deals that I can use as reference to give persons an example of what type of deals I usually need money for. So I'm always raising money, right? Two, when I have the deal, now I would go back to those persons as well who express interest. I will always go back to them who express interest in the deal or whatever that is, and go back to my list, because I always build my own list of persons who express interest in lending all the time. And I will go to them and now and say, hey, I have this project. These are the numbers. This is the overview or breakdown of the deal. This is why I need the money. This is how long I need it for. This is how I plan to pay you back. XYZ. This is how your money is protected. If you'll be interested in this, let's get on a call or reply to this email as well, and we can talk more about it. So I never just wait until I have a deal, and I don't raise only when I have a deal. I am like always raising money for deals at all times. Because even if you don't have a deal, at least the persons who express interest and they're not ready, I'm also taking the time to nurture them all the time. Like in my mastermind with other mentees, like we have this conversation all the time too. And we have working sessions where we're doing outreach together. We're doing follow-ups together. Like maybe on once a month, for example, once a month, we will do all outreach on this platform. Or if they have an existing list, we'll build a whole email campaign to nurture those people. You always have to be doing something in the back end all the time. Like you can't just put it on pause. I think last year we even had a session in our group where we did calendar together, right? And I guide everyone in terms of how to do their outreach, how to do their follow-ups, the systems to use to do that, to make sure that they're tracking the persons that they're reaching out to, how to approach their outreach. And some persons, one of the issues they would have is if there is, what do you call it? Investor objections, and maybe they don't know how to handle a certain objections, and they will come on our weekly call and they'll be like, Kalisha, I was talking to this investor and they expressed interest, but they had this objection and I had no clue how to answer that. And what I would do is just kind of guide them in terms of how to answer it. And sometimes if I need to go on a call with them and their investor where they can leverage my experience, I do that sometimes as well. um so that's one of the main things too, as well, when it comes on to raising money. Again, like, you are always raising money whether you have a deal or not. So even with that too, I think with me raising money for my fund, I've realized that my approach to raising capital now is going to be very different than how I used to raise capital for the last 2 to 3 years, right? And I think in because with me raising money now, I have to be clear on who my ideal investor is. I can't just raise from every investor. So I think one of the main things too is like, when you're raising money, you have to know who's your investor. Who are you reaching out to? A lot of times you're reaching out to person in the same circle. Sometimes you got to step outside of that, right? You're reaching out to people on the same platform. Sometimes you got to step outside of that too. So that comes with me doing a lot of evaluation as well, just to know who my ideal investor is. And I think a lot of times too, and if you're raising money, you're not positioning yourself to attract capital. Like, you're literally not positioning. And what I mean by that is, it could be simply how you show up online. And oh, guys, you hear that all the time, but it's so true. How do you show up online? What does your marketing materials look like? Even if you're not marketing, if you're not good with creativity, like creating pitch decks and all those things, like how you present the deal, like all of those play a crucial role with how you show up, how you present the deal, right? So for me as well, that is a very, very big factor too. And as I mentioned too, is that sometimes person are like, I don't know how to structure deals, right? But here's the thing: before you know how to structure a deal too, you have to understand the deal itself. You have to understand what is your exit strategy, and based on that you will know how much money you need, how long you need that investor for, and how are you going to structure it. But you have to look at your numbers first. You can't just, I'm looking for a PML for this amount of time, and you're looking for a PML for 6 months, 8 months, and based on the deal, you're going to need them to commit for a longer time. Depending on the length of the deal and your exit strategy, you may need them to come on as a partner instead of giving them debt, right? So that the structuring part is, it's a common question I get all the time. So even with my fund, I had to go through so many different deals and to be able to answer questions to my investors. Kalisha, when you give out this money, how do you plan to get it back in so you can pay us our interest? Like, I have to answer that and be clear on that. So I would recommend that you guys do that. And objections as well will always be there. Like, you will never be ready for every single investor objections that exists. Like, that's just the reality of it, because every potential investor who have never done it before, sometimes I've had conversation with investors and they asked me some questions. I was like, oh my God, I've never had that question asked before. Right. And sometimes it could be the simplest, most times it's the simplest objection or question that they have. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty interesting. Right. But even if I don't know the answer up to this day, right, I'm not gonna like get scared and fumble and da da da. Da. I'm gonna, if I don't know the answer, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out. I'm going to find out. But guess what? When I find out and I go back to that investor, if I have another conversation with another investor, I'll be better prepared to handle those objections. And this is where like having a community of people is so, so important to go to, because at least when you experience some of those objections, you don't hit you when you hit that roadblock, you're like, oh, I give up. I don't want to do this. I can't find the answer. I'm going to try to figure it out on my own. You can also be like, Kalisha, can you help with this? When you have a community of other persons who are doing the same thing, You can always ask, and you get the answer that you're looking for, and you proceed, instead of you just hitting your head against a wall all the time, right? So it's a whole learning it's a whole learning process to do as well, which I want to share that what I'll be doing is, I should have done this longer, but oh well. I should have just done this longer. With everything that I shared in terms of how I'm gonna be like raising money for my fund, I'm kind of doing this office hour type of thing. I don't want to call it office hour. Is it office hour? Is it office hour? Let's just use the word office hours for now. Okay, that's where I'm going to use it for now. Where while I'm raising money, you're gonna see what I'm doing to position myself, how I'm structuring these, how I'm handling objections to raise money for my fund. But here's the beauty of it: you're also gonna be doing the thing. You're not just watching me. I'm a strong believer in doing the thing. I don't like when people just show up and just watching things. Like, do it. So if you're on this session, on this live right now because you want to raise capital for something, you want to do it. But coming from someone who, I've done it through a community and having like a small group of persons to rely on to give feedback and all those things, like, I'm opening the door where, for just for 90 days, I don't think I can handle longer than that. Just for we're gonna do it together. So if your goal is to raise 100,000, 500,000, even $50,000, because 100,000 might seem scared or too big, right? Whatever that number is, we're gonna do it together. The same outreach. If you don't have marketing materials or pitch deck or anything to present a deal or something that give an overview about who you are, you don't know what to say to position yourself to attract capital, we'll be doing that together. Wouldn't that be amazing? Who would want to join me on that? Who would want to join me on that? You don't want to raise capital by yourself. Like, who want to join me on that? Let's see. I'm gonna like skim through the chat in the meantime. So I'll be doing that for 9 days. So if you want to join, I lost my train of thought. What just happened? Oh my god, I had a brain freeze. Oh my god. I had a whole brain freeze. Yeah. If you guys are watching, let's see who want to raise some money with me. Like, come on. Again, the thing that I've seen is that we're like, we want to raise money, and then it's time to put in the work, and you're like, I don't want to do it. I do not want to do it. Yeah, I'm gonna break your bubble. Unless you have a genie and be like, I need 100,000 now, I need $500,000 now, and you can snap your finger, that would be amazing. Once you find that, just let me know. They can stop doing this. But we're gonna do some work together. Like, we're gonna do some work together. So I am going to, because I know everyone wants to what do you call it, like, raise money. Everyone wants to do that, and everyone talks about it, but I don't want the talk. Before I give like access to my office hours and all those stuff, I'm gonna drop a link because I want to see if you guys are like serious first before doing that. I don't want to waste my time, honestly. Like, I don't. Like, if you don't have a deal that you're currently raising, or even if you don't and you're like, I really need this because I keep hitting a wall, I just need help, I don't want to figure things out on my own, just book the call. But if you are like, please, like, I can't stress this enough, if you're not serious, like, please do not book the call. Don't get on my calendar if you are not serious, because we're going to be working. Like, if you're not willing to commit at least minimum 3 hours to do this, just don't waste my time. Do not waste my time, and do not waste your time too. Like, I'm just being honest, okay? But you got to put in the work. If you want to raise the money, you have to put in the work. So I'm gonna drop it, and again, I'm just telling that, like, if you don't want to commit the time, and on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're not a 10 with how bad you want it, do not book it. Don't get on my calendar, please. And just make sure if you book the time, please make sure you show up. All right. I'm with you, Denise. So I just dropped the link there. Denise said it's all hard, but must get out the comfort zone. You have to, and you have to have the tough conversations. Everyone wants to be perfect. Everyone wants everything to go perfect on the first call. And if they mess up, they give up. And yet, guess what? You are gonna mess up. You are gonna mess up. But you have the more conversations that you have, the more you mess up, is the more you learn. That's just the reality of it, right? So you have to do it, and you have to get clear on what is it that you're raising for, how much money do you need, and you just got to lock in. I remember when I decided to raise private money, um I was doing I was doing agent outreach. I was calling sellers, calling agents, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is not my thing. I don't like I don't like calling sellers. I don't like doing any of those things." But I'm like, Kalisha, do not give up. Do it for 90 days. Give it your best. And then at the end of 90 days, you can make a decision to be like, you know what? I gave it my all. This is not my thing. And I did. And I did the same with raising capital. After I decided not to do calling sellers anymore because I just honestly did not like it. I didn't enjoy it as well, but I did learn from it in terms of people hanging up in my ears, telling me no, cussing me out, all that stuff. And when I decided to focus on raising capital, I did the same. I did the same model. I was like, you know what? I am going to give it 90 days. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do every single thing that I possibly can, not every day, but a couple times for the week to raise money. And after 90 days, I got better and I got better. And after the 90 days, I was like, oh, this is what I really want to do. I'm definitely sticking to this. Right. So that's why I'm doing the 90 days now, because a lot of times you try for 2 weeks and it doesn't work and you give up and you chase the other thing. And then you're like, I'm going to wait until I have a deal to raise money. And then it's like it's a whole cycle. Like that's just the reality of it. Right. Devin is like, I'm raising 6 million for a village building project in New England. Oh, you're from North. I love it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh my God, what is happening? I keep burping. But that is amazing, Devin. That is super, super dope. Um, I dropped the link in the chat as well. So you guys can always open it because I know once the live ends, you can always go back on the live and get it. And I'll also drop it like in the description so you guys have it. But yeah, raising 10 million for my fund from accredited investors only, which means I can say this because of how my fund is set up. I can publicly say that. Isn't that amazing? And I think what's going to be so amazing about this, because I'm raising for, again, I know who my target investor is. I know my approach, my strategy. So now I'm just going to be doing a thing, and you guys going to see me doing a thing. And then you're going to copy what I'm doing and add your twist to it and do the thing as well. That's going to be amazing. So I'm super, super stoked about that. I have time for like 2 questions. So if you guys have any question that I didn't touch in the chat, just drop them again. So let's go. Ask a question in the meantime. And I would say 2 things as well. If you're not in or free school community, I'm gonna drop the link there too. If you guys are also in, thank you for always showing up and be there. I don't know where you found this as well, but thank you for showing up and being with me tonight. I know you guys have better places that you could be, but you guys showed up, stayed engaged, all the good stuff. So I appreciate that. Dropping that in the chat as well. So I see that there's no questions. All right. So thank you guys for showing up. And I hope this was very valuable to you guys and some of the information was helpful. And I don't believe in giving y'all like sugarcoating stuff. I'm just being honest as well. And I'm not going to tell you raising capital is easy. You have to put in the work if you want to see the results. That's just the reality of it. But if you find a faster way or easiest way to do it without talking to people, please let me know. I would love to know how you're doing so I can do it too. Okay. All right. Well, until next time, see you guys. Thanks for tuning in to another session. Thanks for showing up. And I do hope that you guys have a fantastic and a very productive week.